When my grandmother died, my brother walked out of the lawyer's office with everything: the house, the money, the family business. And he made sure I saw him smile. He leaned over and whispered, "Grandma knew who deserved it." I didn't argue, I didn't cry, because 3 days later, I got a phone call from a different lawyer, and what he told me changed everything. My brother thought he had won. He had no idea he was about to lose it all. Thank you for coming back to my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe so you will always be the first to see my stories each time I upload. When my grandmother died, the entire family gathered in a room that smelled like old leather and expensive silence. It was the kind of lawyer's office where every word felt heavy, and the kind where people pretend to grieve but secretly calculate numbers in their heads. My brother Daniel sat across from me, legs crossed, wearing a black suit he probably bought for the occasion. He looked composed, calm, almost confident. I sat beside the window, hands folded tightly in my lap. I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about her laugh, the way she hummed while watering her roses, the way she used to squeeze my hand twice when she was proud of me. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began. As stated in the will, my chest tightened. The house, all savings accounts, investment holdings, personal property, and controlling shares of the family business are hereby left to Daniel Carter. For a moment, I didn't understand the words. They felt foreign, like a language I'd never learned. Daniel's lips curled upward. He didn't look surprised. He looked validated. The lawyer continued reading, but I stopped listening. The house, her savings, her jewelry, the bakery she built from scratch 40 years ago. Everything. To him. When it was over, Daniel stood up, buttoned his jacket, and leaned slightly toward me. "Guess being the favorite finally paid off," he whispered. Favorite. The word echoed in my head. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just nodded, because something inside me didn't feel heartbreak. It felt confusion. Growing up in her shadow, our grandmother practically raised us. But if you asked anyone in the family, they'd say Daniel was her pride. He was loud, charming, quick with jokes. He filled rooms with energy. I filled corners with quiet. When we were children, Daniel was the one who got praise for good grades. I was the one who stayed behind after school to help Grandma with errands. When she started getting older, I was the one driving her to appointments. I managed her prescriptions. I learned how to check her blood pressure. I knew which tea helped her sleep and which chair made her back hurt. Daniel visited on Christmas, on birthdays, when there were cameras. He'd kiss her cheek and say, "You're my favorite girl." She'd smile politely, but at night, when she struggled to walk to the bathroom, she called my name. Not his, mine. And I never once resented that, because loving her never felt like a competition. It felt like home. The will that made no sense. 3 days after the reading, the confusion still gnawed at me. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the copy of the will. The dates were right. The signatures were there. Sure, but something about it felt wrong. Grandma was meticulous, careful, deliberate. She once rewrote her grocery list 3 times because the handwriting didn't look serious enough. And I remembered a conversation we had 6 months before she passed. She'd been unusually thoughtful that evening. "If anything ever seems strange," she told me, stirring her tea slowly, "trust your instincts." At the time, I thought she meant life advice. Now it sounded like a warning. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. "Is this Emily Carter?" A calm male voice asked. "Yes. My name is Mr. Hastings. I'm an attorney. I represent your late grandmother." My heart stopped. She updated her will approximately 6 months ago. Privately. The world went silent. "What?" I whispered. "There appears to have been a filing discrepancy. I believe you should come to my office." My hands began shaking. The second will. His office was smaller than the first lawyer's, less intimidating, more discreet. He handed me a folder. Inside was a document dated exactly 6 months before her death. Signed, witnessed, stamped. It was legitimate. I read the first line twice to make sure my eyes weren't lying. The primary residence, including all land and assets associated with it, shall be left to my granddaughter, Emily Carter. My breath caught. 70% of my liquid assets and full controlling interest in Carter Family Bakery shall also transfer to Emily Carter. 70%. Control of the business. My vision blurred. There's more, Mr. Hastings said gently. He slid a sealed envelope toward me. My name was written on the front in her delicate handwriting. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. My sweet Emily, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and Daniel likely believes he has everything. I love him. He is my grandson, but love and responsibility are not the same. You were there when I needed help tying my shoes. You were there when I was too embarrassed to admit I couldn't read the fine print on my own prescriptions. You were there when the house felt too quiet. I have watched you give without expectation. I want you to have the house because you made it a home. I want you to have the business because you understand its heart. And I want you to know, I always saw you. With love, Grandma, I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit the paper. She never revoked the old will publicly, Mr. Hastings explained. She intended to handle the filing discreetly, but somehow the outdated version was submitted during probate. Daniel had filed the first one. He didn't know about the second. The legal storm. The next few weeks were tense. Daniel hired an attorney. He accused me of manipulation, of isolating her, of coercion, family members whispered. Some sided with him. It was easier. Louder people often win public sympathy, but documents don't care about volume. The second will was airtight. Signed in sound mind, witnessed by two unrelated parties, filed properly, the court invalidated the first will. Daniel's inheritance evaporated. The house, the money, the business. Legally, it was mine. The fallout. When Daniel found out, he called me immediately. You think you're clever? He snapped. You planned this. I didn't plan anything, I said calmly. But you always wanted what was mine. That hurt, because it wasn't true. I never wanted what was his. I just wanted what she intended. He had already quit his job. He told friends he was about to run the family empire. He'd leased a luxury car, put down a deposit on a condo, all assuming the first will stood. Now, he had none of it. The condo deal fell through. The car was repossessed. The job he left had already been filled. For the first time in his life, charm didn't fix things. Paperwork decided. Walking through the house. The first night I officially owned the house, I walked through it alone. The hardwood floors creaked the same way they always had. Her knitting basket still sat beside the couch. The kitchen smelled faintly of cinnamon. I stood in the doorway of her bedroom and felt something shift inside me. Not victory. Not revenge. Closure. She trusted me. Not because I demanded it. Not because I performed for it. But because I showed up when no one was looking. Taking over the business. The bakery was struggling slightly when I stepped in. Daniel had never bothered to learn operations. I had. Over the years, Grandma had taught me everything. Inventory management, supplier negotiations, recipe scaling, customer retention. She used to say, this place doesn't run on sugar. It runs on trust. Within months, I stabilized operations, modernized the marketing, expanded online orders. Revenue increased by 30% in the first year. Not because I was smarter than Daniel, but because I cared about the foundation, the confrontation. Months later, Daniel showed up at the bakery. He looked different, less polished, less certain. I need a job, he said quietly. I studied him. This was the same man who whispered favorite in that lawyer's office. The same man who believed inheritance was proof of worth. I can't give you ownership, I said evenly, but I can offer you a position, entry level. You'll have to learn the business. His jaw tightened. He wanted pride without process. I'll think about it, he muttered. He never came back. What I learned, people think inheritance is about money. It's not. It's about trust. It's about who showed up. It's about who understood the quiet sacrifices. Daniel thought being loved meant being chosen. But love doesn't ignore reality. It acknowledges it. I didn't win because I fought harder. I didn't win because I was smarter. And I won because I was present, because I stayed when it was inconvenient, because I listened when she was tired, and because sometimes karma doesn't shout, it doesn't humiliate, it doesn't need applause. Sometimes karma signs paperwork and justice arrives in silence.